Well, hey guys, welcome back to Wisdom and Wealth. I'm Cory, your host. I'm sitting here. I'm super excited right now because I have Bob Burg right now, the co-author of The Go Giver. Come on, baby. This is awesome. And cool story because all I do a lot of times is I share a post on, like, whenever I finish a book or something that I'm chewing on, I share a lot of the times, and people comment or whatever. Well, I got a flood of comments and people tagging Bob on LinkedIn for this one, and so connected with Bob, and so thankful for him just being willing to jump on board. But I'm super excited about this because it's an easy read, that a gift that I get from for anybody who's out there that has a stack of books like I do. I kind of grab and see if I'm ready for a new one. I grab and see what's intriguing to me, and this one immediately impacted me. So I'm super excited to have Bob on. Bob, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure, Cory. Thank you.
Hey, well, this is great. We'll jump right into it. So the whole purpose of our podcast is wisdom and wealth. It's based on Solomon's prayer, praying for wisdom and receiving immense wealth that he got blessed with. But what I love is nuggets, things that have helped me and my family, helped me in my business. And what I love about one of the stratospheric lessons in this book was a lesson that's good for business is same in life, and same in life is good for business. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite ones was in business. And I know if anybody has been trying to build something or in a sales capacity, whatever, was the power of your network and basically building an army of ambassadors for you. And there was a key piece in that hit me was, some of these people will never buy your product or service. And I thought it was so good because I've heard so many times, or I've even had this selfish thought where I'm like, man, you've sent business to me, or you have endorsed our business or something like that, but you've never come to me for anything. And so, but it was a good, I think, calibration for me, where it's like, no, there is amazing people that are for you, that are never going to buy your business. And it was just really cool. But I'm thankful for it. But I wanted to jump in. I was like, what, you and John, David Mann, who's the other co-author, like what led to the book? What was the catalyst of this? What was behind this? Like, how did that even become a thing?
Yeah, so years and years ago, this is back in the early to mid 90s, I had a book out called Endless Referrals, and the subtitle was Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales. That was back in the day when there were about 3 books on networking out there. Mine was one of them. And it was written for the salesperson or entrepreneur who knew they had a great product or service. They knew it brought fantastic value to those they served, but they didn't necessarily feel comfortable going out into the marketplace, into their local area, and building the kinds of relationships where people would want to do business with them directly and or refer them to others. So Endless Referrals was sort of my system, if you will, for building those relationships. A system, I define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles, the key being predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired results of B, then you know that all you need to do is A and continue to do A, and you'll get the desired result. So it was my system for building a business based on the following premise, and this was sort of the premise of the book, that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. That's what the book was about. It was a how-to book. It was thankfully very successful. But I'd always loved reading parables since the time I'd gotten into sales. And parables are stories. They connect on a deeper level, a heart-to-heart level. And I always thought, wouldn't it be great to take the basic know, like, and trust premise, that really the focus on others, and put that into a parable? But I'm not a parable writer. I'm not a fiction writer. All my books have been, other than the ones with John and a recent one with Jeff West, have been how-to books. So I met John in, I think, 2002, 2003. He was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I was writing for. I was writing a monthly column for, and John was the editor-in-chief. Great guy. Even back then, people in his world, in his niche, knew he was a brilliant writer. And as I got to know him better, and we developed a know, like, and trust relationship, I thought this would be the guy to really write this parable, to be the lead writer, storyteller. And I asked him if he would do that. And he was still busy at that time. It took a while for him to make the decision, but eventually he said, "Yeah, let's do this. I think we got something here." And we called it the Go Giver. And basically, the premise being that shifting your focus from getting to giving, in this context, giving simply meaning constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. And Cory, it's not for any woo-woo, way out there, magical, mystical type of reasons. It makes logical sense. When you're that person who can take your focus off of yourself and place it on serving others, discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire, what problems and challenges you can help them overcome, how you can help move them closer to happiness. When you're that person, people feel good about you. They feel great about you. They want to be in relationship with you. They know, like, and trust you. They want to do business with you. They want to tell the world about you. They want to be your personal walking ambassador. So, John and I, we wrote the book, but John, again, he was the lead writer. He was the storyteller. And we wrote it in a few months. The tough part was we went through a year's worth of rejections. 24 publishing houses told us no before the 25th one, Portfolio, an imprint of Penguin Random House, told us yes. But they turned out to be the perfect publishing partner. So, it all happens exactly when it's supposed to.
That's, I mean, that's its own great story of perseverance right there, because you got to have something that is good and then want to be able to produce it. So how was it, if you don't mind me asking, what did all the previous publishers, what did they say about it? They're just like, not for us, we don't like it, or what was the feedback?
There were different types of feedback. So there were, some who just said, we just don't want a parable. Some that said, we just don't feel that has a message that's going to connect with people. Other people just said, timing wasn't right or whatever. So what we did is, and by the way, some had, gave us good critique. And we had an agent working with us, Margaret McBride, who's really, she's so fantastic. And we always made sure to get the feedback, right? We wanted to know what they were saying. It's always tough to hear no. I don't care who you are. And, we're both in sales, and everybody listening is in sales. And we know it's, you fill a 5-gallon barrel of no's in order to get a quart of yeses. But the quart of yeses is enough, right? And if you do it right. And so, but nobody likes it. I don't care. But what we wanted to do was not be defensive about it, not shut our minds to it, not say they're wrong, but take in the information. And some of it was just opinion. Others was good stuff. And we did some changes. The biggest thing, though, which one of them told us, actually a couple of them told us, was that the platform, and when a publisher these days says platform, they mean how many people already are going to buy the book just because it's you, is what they mean. We didn't feel that your marketing message was going to be sufficient to your platform and beyond. And they were right. And so, we kind of redid the whole marketing element of it, did a whole new video for it that we would use for the promotion. And, who knows, that probably helped us look more appealing to Portfolio, who eventually picked us up.
It reminds me of my mentor. She actually sold her business, but she put her business on the market initially to get all the critique of her business, go fix all those problems, and then relist it later.
Yeah,
ended up having a fantastic sale.
Yeah,
but that's how, man. How important are those no's that we have to go fix the problems that we do have?
Two of my friends, a husband and wife team, Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton, wrote this great book. In fact, it was a parable, and it came out, I think, just about a year or two after The Go-Giver. It's called Go for No. And their subtitle is Yes is the destination, no is how you get there. And what they basically did is reframe the no's into something that, rather than, resisting and feeling badly about, even though again, no one feels great about it, utilizing it and using it to your advantage, the no's that you get. And, being able to count those no's and understanding that, again, if you have it, formulated how many no's it really takes to get that, to get those yeses, you can really you can reframe that in a way that really serves you rather than discourages you.
That's awesome. I love that. Now, so you're earlier talking about doing business with somebody you know, like, and trust. Now, a story that I have, I'd want to get your opinion on and what you think about it. So, my mentor in our business here in Texas was talked about stratospheric, was that for me. And I knew, because of my sports background, I'm willing to go take a risk on myself and I can bet on myself, and that's great. But I need somebody who's further down the road than me, right? So, like, you learn on purpose or on accident. One of them hurts, and so and so I was able to get with a person. Her name was Erin Botsford, who sold her financial practice. I want to say like 35 years, 35 years in business. Great deal. And I remember the first call we got on was a Zoom, and she was like, "Well, tell me about your business." And I share, and it's been going well. And she's like, "Well, tell me about your process." And I kind of did this half chopped up version, and it was really bad. And she leaned into the camera like, "So you don't have a process?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And what she had told me, she goes, "Well," she goes, I thought you said your business was doing well." I go, "Well, yeah." She goes, "What do you attribute that?" And that to. And I go, "Well, people trust me." She goes, "Oh, that'll end." And it blew me back. Like, what are you talking? As if she just stabbed my character, right? And I go, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Cory, um, I trust you with my grandchildren. I may even trust you with a 500,000 or $1,000,000, but I don't trust you with 10." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And so she, and her view, what she had learned in her business was, she was like, "If you don't have your process articulated on black and white and in front of me, and you can walk me through that exactly and paint a picture of how this is going to look if I come on in your business, you will never get the 10 million that you want to manage." And it hit me, because as soon as I implemented that in the business, that became a big beacon or a reason. People were like, "I like this," as a
Mhm.
very key piece of why they came on board. And I wonder if, like, what's your opinion on that? So, like, we do have the know, like, and trust 100%. And it kind of makes me think of the Tony Robbins "people buy with emotion and justify with logic" thought process.
Well,
Tell your opinion of any of it.
so yeah, so let's go back to what your mentor said, and she was right, because it's not an either or. It's not, do they trust you or do you have a process? They trust you, and they may trust you in terms of character, but if they don't know that you have a process and one that they feel comfortable with, they won't trust you in terms of competence. And that's what she was saying. And Stephen M.R. Covey, son of Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, the son, Stephen M.R. Covey's a brilliant leadership teacher, coach, consultant. And one of his books was the Speed of Trust. And it's just brilliant. And one of the things he says is, when it comes to trust, it is both character and competence, because in anything of any type of significance, uh, if you have competence, great. But if they can't trust your character, well, they're not going to do business with you. It doesn't matter how competent you are. On the other hand, you can be, you can have great high character and so forth. But if you don't know what you're doing, at least to the degree that you need to, in order to have a high net worth investor take their, they're probably not going to either. So, I think she made a great point. And, when people look at and that's where I also say, remember, with the know, like, and trust, it's all things being equal. So that assumes that you have everything that you need in order to do the deliverables.
Mhm.
And if you do, and the other person does, and your other competitor does, and your other competitor does, it's the person with whom they have the relationship who's going to get the business.
Right. No, that's completely agree. And that was a growth deal for me that I had to realize
Oh yeah.
was the more experience, the more under the belt, the more I took from my mentors, the more I gained on my side, the more competence was I was able to display, and then
Mhm.
ultimately able to coach on somebody else, right? And it was a really powerful place. But I love it because you see the know, like, and trust. But I think there's a level of maturity that goes through somebody's life in their craft. Also, proverb that I love that I think of often is a man's gift makes him known amongst great men. And but the context that gets lost is basically like if it comes around the table and your gift isn't crafted, you know, it might be super raw, but if it's not crafted, it's not going to be noticed amongst great men.
Mhm.
And as opposed to when it is, you stand out.
Yeah.
And so super powerful. But that was a big impactful one for me. But man, I appreciate that. Well, tell me, like, what's something you do today that, like, whether it was from Go Giver, or another book, or something that you operate in today that is a no brainer that you wish in your business that you wish you started, or maybe even relationally, but that you wish you would have started 10 or 20 years ago. That you're like, man, I wish I would have started that way earlier.
I would have to say it would have been getting much more comfortable with the technology aspect of the business, because I'm not a tech person by nature. And back in the 90s, I remember the late 90s, which is really when it was beginning to be a thing. And I had a really good speaking business built up by that time. And more things were going to, high tech, and my clients were doing that. And I kind of said, nah, they're my clients. They'll stay loyal to me. I don't need to, do that stuff. And my business kind of crumbled. I had to rebuild it. And, what it said to me is you don't have to like change. You just got to be willing to do it if you want the results, that you, and I love, the, some of the, what I call the politically correct aspect of the personal development movement is things like change is good. We love change, embrace change. You know what? I hate change. I like to get good at something and then just have it stay just where it is. Problem is that's not life. That's not truth. And successful people deal in truths. They understand universal laws. They understand the laws of nature. They understand the laws of physical nature. They understand the laws of human nature. They understand the laws of economic nature. Uh, and so, I was kind of denying something because I didn't want to have to do it. I was not embracing a truth, and it hurt. And so I had to. So I began to learn more and more, and yeah, I'm fortunate to work with people who are really good with the tech stuff. So I'm able to do the stuff and people assume I'm really good with tech because they see me everywhere on the internet. I'm okay with it. I know enough to know about it, but not where, but back then I, nearly sank my business because I was not. So yeah, I would say embracing technology. The key is understanding though with technology, the technology is only a means to an end.
Yeah.
Technology is not going to build one's business. The technology just helps you to meet more people than you would have without it, create relationships that you're able to create that you wouldn't have been able to without it, to add more value to people's lives than you would have been able to without it. So, we want to use the technology, but understand that the technology is not the end. It's simply the means to an end.
But that very much I think the law of scale with the teacher in the book. That one got me because I was originally supposed to be a teacher. I was going for elementary education when I was going back to college, and then I realized teachers work way too hard and get paid way too little. And so that hit me. But then there was the scale lesson of that. Go. So okay, tell me, like, that lesson when you realized it almost sank your business. How did practically? What did you do? Like, how did you come to the realization? And then what was the steps that you, because tech, like, yeah, I love tech. but it's so new and so fast developing constantly that where am I going? So like a guy in your shoes,
Hmm.
where was the first place you went when you realized that was a thing that you needed
Oh,
to act?
I found someone who understood tech and could teach it to me. It's,
Okay.
that's all you can do. Once, you can't overcome a problem you don't know you have. But once you know you have it, if you don't take action to overcome it, you're not going to do it that way either. So, I think that's very key. One point you brought up is when we talk about scale, and that was the law of compensation in the story, the law of
That's right.
compensation, which says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. And I think if we're even talking about as a financial advisor, that the value you're offering, let's say to a client, in which you're helping them to create and manage wealth, you're helping them to have confidence in their future. You're helping them to leave a legacy to their, to their children and grandchildren, and or charities, or whatever it is you're helping them to do. That you're adding immense value to their lives, for which you receive a fee, and that's wonderful. But having just one client, unless that person is a really high net worth, but we can't count. I don't think that's something we can ever count on. Isn't what's going to make your business profitable and sustainable. And that's where being able to impact more people's lives comes into play. That's why, we're big believers in referral business, introductions. There's people who speak to financial advisors about that, people like Bill Cates, who's fantastic, and Richard Wildman, and a lot of people like that. But that's because that's how you scale, because having working with referred prospects just makes it so much easier. It's easier to set the appointment, of course, with a referred prospect. Fees are less of an issue, because again, you already have that gravitas of being a very competent advisor through borrowed influence. It's easier to complete the actual sale, that initial sale, because of borrowed trust, or what we call vicarious experience. So while this person has not yet invested with you, someone who they know, like, and trust has said, "Oh yeah, this is the only person you need to see. They're going to take great care of you. They know what they're doing. They're on top of things. They're going to return your calls. They're going to proactively contact you when something's happened. They're going to always make it a great experience for you when you go into their office. Everyone, right?" And so that is what, and then of course, with a referral based prospect who's now your client, well, they're already of the mindset that that's how you do business, because that's how they met you. So they know that you meet your clients through referral, and that you sell on high value rather than low fees, right? That you complete the sale, and then you take great care of them. So that's really such a fantastic way of scaling the business.
It's been, and I've learned that too, but it's been fantastic. And that's one thing that has been a really big deal. It's like just the value, that distinction between value and price, or value and fee, is a
That's
big
key.
one,
Very,
right?
very key. Yeah, because price, fee. I would say price is a dollar figure. Fee is a dollar figure. It's finite. It simply is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, investment, what have you, that brings so much worth to another person, so much value, that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. In fact, in any free market based exchange. And when I say free market, I simply mean no one is forced to do business with anyone else. In any free market based exchange, there should always be two profits: the buyer profits, or the client profits, and the seller profits, because each of them come away significantly better off afterwards than they were beforehand.
Um, I think it's great because the deeper that, I don't, competence is the right word, the word that I'm thinking of right now, but the deeper the conviction that you have in the value that you provide your end consumer,
Mhm.
um, the better you can convey that across the table,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Sure.
And that's one thing that has definitely I can attest to is with growth in the business and more conviction and seeing the value, more stories that compound that you
Mhm.
can share. That a lot of the times it's almost just a transfer of energy across the table.
Sure. And you know what it allows you to do? The more mastery you have of your topic and the more conviction you have in the value that you bring, the better you're able to ask questions and then listen to them,
Mm.
which is really such a key. Because, value, when we talk about, the relative worth or desirability, value is always in the eyes of the beholder. So it's not what we find to be of value or what we think they should think is of value. It's what they believe is of value. So when we ask those questions and then, and then we really listen and listen deeply to make sure we understand them. And then the interesting thing is when we really know what it is they need, want, and desire, our combination of competence slash mastery of our topic, of our subject, combined with the conviction of our belief in it, allows us to serve that person in a way that's just, fantastic.
I love it. So my mind jumps all over, but it makes me think of if you're I don't know if you're a Jordan Peterson fan,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm a big Jordan Peterson fan and clinical psychologist, right? But he talks one of the things that comes to mind right away was he goes, any psychologist is worth his salt knows that a client you can't tell a client what to do. They have to come to that revelation themselves. And I think that's just it's another way of saying it. Like you ask better questions, more pointed, you get more pointed answers, and a lot of times they come to the value prop essentially of what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, I agree. It's the difference with my friend Jeff West, my colleague, who he and I wrote co-authored a sales parable um, called Streetwise to Saleswise, and then the subtitle is Become Objection Proof and Beat the Sales Blues. Blues because it was set in New Orleans and blues music. It's a parable, so it's. But Jeff says, and I love this. He says that eventually, through asking the right questions, you get the prospect to tell themselves what they need to hear, as opposed to we, the salesperson, telling them what they need to hear. When we tell them what they need to hear, it's suspect. When they tell themselves what they need to hear, it's gospel. And that happens when we ask the right questions. They will eventually tell themselves what they need to hear.
Mm. That's that's gold. That's
Uh,
gold. I appreciate that. Well, do this. We just have a couple more minutes, but I want to ask if there was, especially for somebody who is starting business or they're young in business, or even somebody who's seasoned. I feel like the continued one thing I've learned for sure is the continued search for knowledge and wisdom in order to keep elevating it in our marriage or in our business or in our relationships is key. But if you could give one of your best lessons or speak to a young person underneath you, what's a piece of starting out a business or young in the business? What's something that you would love to give to them if they were kind of immature in their journey, if you will?
I think it would be a piece of advice that a mentor gave to me many years ago when I was just really starting out in sales, and this turned out to be really huge. He said, "Berg, if you want to make a lot of money in sales," he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money, and you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target itself. Your target is serving others. And Cory, what that told me was that basically great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the product or service, as important as that is. That's never what it's about. Great salesmanship is about that other person who you're trying to bring value to. Or I think we could even more accurately say it's about another person's life, that person's life being better just because you are part of it. And I think when we approach sales and business from that foundational premise, I think then we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Yeah. That's a great point. Are you better? Are you better from being in their lives? Are they better from being in you being in their lives?
Right.
It's a great deal. But this is amazing, Bob. I'm super thankful for you. I want to tell people, anybody who's listening right now, if you want to go get more information about Bob, go to burg.com, BURG.com. Or also want to give a good shout out to an event that's coming up that he's putting on is saleswiselive.com. Saleswiselive.com. Go check that out. It's going to be awesome. I'm super thankful, Bob. Listen. I'm an avid reader, and so as soon as I get deep into something that I think is gold, and I start rereading it, you got a fan for life. And especially when I posted and seeing how many people jumped on commenting about how much they love your book, your and John's book. You guys are impacting and doing a lot for that. So thank you for sharing that with everyone.
Cory, thank you. Thanks for having me on.